Hello, and welcome to CARPS lectures. These are lectures on conflict analysis, resolution, and peace studies. And today, we're going to talk about narrative praxis. Narrative is a part of the conflict analysis and resolution field that studies the way people tell their stories and the way these stories can either create or mitigate conflict. These stories are told by people on the individual level, community level, societal level, national level, and even global level about an other. Somebody else in their conflict, often the other participant or one of the other participants, who they often delegitimize or even dehumanize. And they recreate that delegitimization and dehumanization through every time they tell the story about the conflict or the issue. And what narrative praxis seeks to do is introduce complexity into that, because the teller of the story usually sees themselves as good or legitimate or the unquestionable victim in what is happening. And by introducing complexity into that story, we can begin to legitimize the other and destabilize the speaker. And that isn't to say that we want to damage anybody, because we work directly with the story. And as the story expands, people's realization of what happened expands. Usually people will have very linear stories where they've picked out, either consciously or unconsciously, the details that they feel are most important and the ones that they'd like to focus on in their story. And usually these are the ones that would legitimize them without considering the position of the other or other factors within the story. So through asking questions and different techniques, what narrative practitioners seek to do is to complicate these stories and pull in other related issues or related circumstances that expand on the story and broaden it so that it isn't this smooth thing that can just be told and focus on one part of an issue and create a divide between how people perceive themselves and how they perceive somebody else who's involved. And this can also be done by groups. And so groups in ethnic conflict or in other conflicts can have a very straight, linear narrative about the other that helps reproduce the conflict, because everything that they see that fits with the narrative reinforces the narrative. Conflicts can also be cyclical, and we can look at how we can introduce complexity into the circle to show that it's more than just this reproduced issue over and over and over again, that there are other factors that came into what happened. And it's a very useful tool for beginning talks on working with other people, other participants in the conflict, on possibly resolving it or de-escalating it, or just working to help them gain a better understanding. And it's often a very empowering way to work with conflict, because rather than going in and telling people how things are going to be, it's a very elicitive way of working with people to find their own solutions for their issues, depending on the situation. And the first tool of narrative that we're going to discuss in the next video is externalization, which does exactly that.